there's this like fear of being wrong, or fear of being like not enough, or fear of being too much. There's
Yeah.
always like some part within us where we're like trying to be better, or trying to
Yeah.
be worthy, or trying to like do the right thing. And
Mhm.
so it's just for me, like, yeah, I can't stress this enough. Like, know that you are loved. Like, know that life fucking loves and adores every last piece of you.
Yes. So welcome to the Tea On, where we sip tea and we talk about things. It doesn't matter what you're sipping. Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm Jasmine Kylene, and I don't know where you're watching this, but you could be watching this on my YouTube at Jasmine Kylene or at lalilaluna.tv. And today I'm super excited, just like honestly I always am. But I think that today is going to be a beautiful and powerful and meaningful conversation. I'm here with none other than Adionai, who I was just like perfecting the art of saying that name because it's so beautiful, to match a very beautiful soul. But I'd love for you to introduce yourself and how you fit in the world.
Sweet. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm Adionai, or Adi, and I am a writer. I'm like a multifaceted creative writer, musician, event producer, workshop facilitator, DJ, and guide, evolutionary guide, I call it. Just like in service to like how, like, wow, how free, how like badass, like how real, how unlocked can we get as humans? Like, I believe we're still evolving as a species. I think we're just like taking our baby steps, and I see like infinite potential truly. And so I'm just, yeah, in service to, through many artistic expressions and events, to like this new wave of consciousness and culture that's like, oh wait, what if we could do this in a way where like it was super fun and everyone was a part of it, and love was the core. Like I think we're maturing as a society from like so much trauma and drama and like violence and illusion and like forgetting who we really are, to like remembering like the sacredness and the beauty and the interconnection and the potential. So I'm just like in service to all of it. It's yeah, and to put it mildly, but also bigly.
Yeah, literally, exactly. Oh my gosh, what an introduction. You say you call yourself an evolutionary leader or an evolutionary
guide. Yeah.
Evolutionary guide. That's so beautiful. I feel like I find so many people, because sometimes I call myself a love leader, and like I feel like so many people who work in like this sort of spiritual service will have to like find our own titles, because it's a weird way to, I feel like society is really into labeling and boxing, and so we kind of have to find a way to like, even though we're all kind of doing the same work in different, clothes. So I love that you have that title. That's like so powerful. But
love that leader. That resonates.
Thank you. And I love the fact that you are in so many fields and you have so many layers to yourself. To be a DJ, to be an event coordinator, and also be doing this work directly ties in with one of the questions that I have. So I'll just get right into it. But before I even say anything, in case no one's figured out yet, we're going to be talking about spiritual awakening and all of that good stuff today. But something that I think is really interesting that I'd love to hear your perspective on is the idea that we are multifaceted human beings. And so it's really easy to find somebody who's very deep in their consciousness and deep in this journey, take on the role of maybe things that people deem to not be like as spiritual. And it's so, I wonder throughout your journey if you've ever found yourself feeling uncomfortable in certain environments, or I don't know, I'm sure you can get at what I'm saying, but sometimes I feel like I was maybe too woo or maybe I was being perceived as being too woo to connect with certain people or in certain environments. Have you ever experienced that, being in so many different fields?
Yeah, I've always felt like an outsider.
Right.
And that was like a huge catalyst actually for my like spiritual awakening, or like for my going into my own path and figuring out like who I am and getting really solid in that. It started with being really insecure with like who I am in relationship with the world.
Right.
Because I couldn't fit in a box, right? So So that always made it really hard and awkward. Sometimes it was like fun and in flow when I was younger, but then when I really started to like develop into who I really am, I found that my soul, like who I am, just wanted to like expand and express like this, and I couldn't find any space around me, especially in high school. Like I'm in Palo Alto, the Silicon Valley, so the culture here is very like it's very not that, it seems. You know, it's a lot of tech, a lot of like academic competition,
very goal driven.
Yeah, basically a lot of conformity, it seems like kind of to be accepted, it kind of seemed like you have to be in a box and you have to kind of be the same as everyone else and kind of meet somewhere like in the middle. And for me, I was like, my soul just wouldn't let me do that. So I internalized a lot of these feelings of like not knowing how to communicate with people and like not knowing how to express myself and feel like my expression was fully welcome. A lot of bad, like negative stories went in my head about like, wow, there's just no hope for me in this world. Like I'm just too much, or I'm just not enough this, or I'm too much that. I'm too different. It's been an awkward journey of like figuring out like, okay, I'm a little bit different, and that's okay, and realizing like, oh wait, that's actually my gift, and I can actually serve from this like eccentricness to help other people that might not have as much access, or the context of like feeling so disconnected from the world that there's no option but to find your own way. Some people that are still like in the middle, that are like kind of don't know. I find that my belief now is that I can serve using all my gifts to help people to feel more safe and comfortable with being different and not being in the box.
Oh, 100%, absolutely. And I don't think you even like realize how powerful it is what you said about the idea of like the awkwardness and what made you feel so disconnected and so isolated is actually your gift. And when you embrace that, and also when you find your tribe too, there's such an empowerment that comes with it. So I'm so glad you found your way. In sort of stepping into yourself and stepping into your power, did you feel like you had to, or maybe naturally, maybe some friendships fell away or some habits and cycles kind of fell away with it?
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like everything.
Unavoidable.
Yeah.
Unavoidable, yeah. And sometimes you have to bid it farewell, but it is still difficult, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was lots of like death, it seems like. Lots of like falling away and lots of like giving up everything.
Yeah.
And I used to like grab onto everything as much as possible. I was like, no, like I wanna hang out. I wanna be loved. Like, can't you guys see me?
Right.
Like, it was a big catalyst for like my journey was like I said, like feeling outcast or like disconnected from everything around me in high school. And there was a lot of like grasping on and like what the fuck, y'all?
Yeah.
Like, can't you see me? Like, let's just love, let's just be together. Like, that's what my heart was saying. And just life was like, nope.
Yeah.
And so at first that was like a lot of grief and depression and like hopelessness, like I said, and then eventually it became like my greatest superpower to constantly release everything and like not need my sense of identity to be attached to anything outside of me, validating that.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I relate so deeply to that. 100%. Like I do tarot cards, and so whenever I have like the death card come up, like I feel like people are usually like, oh no, reluctant, and I'm like, no, I love it. Because I've gone through so much change, I found such comfort in like letting go of things, because you don't realize like the pain that you cause yourself when you're holding on so tightly to things that no longer serve you or that no longer have a role in this new timeline that you're stepping into. When you finally just like let go, it's so beautiful.
Speaking of death, just something that comes up is like that's a huge thing that we're going through as a collective, right?
Yes.
We're in some ways like there's a lot of death, like
a lot of
like the forefront of triggering a lot of our like survival and responses and like evolutionary responses, like our need to like shift things is like COVID, first of all, is like all this death. Yeah. And then also just the murders of like George Floyd and other Black, Indigenous people of color, and like this is this big theme of like death. And also in general, it feels like all our old ways are dying, or the old ways we're used to doing things as a collective. It's like we've had to let go of all of our attachments and like go into quarantine, and we're continuously like, I feel like in a greater process of death.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is, I think, one of the most insane experiences of my life, and I think of all of our lives, is what we're going through right now. And I also think that that's the reason why the timing of this conversation with you is so beautiful, because I think the fact that we're all going through what we're going through collectively, it's so clear to me, and it's so indicative that we're going through like a reset, and we're going through a huge cathartic moment. And it's going to trigger a lot of spiritual awakenings for a lot of people who perhaps don't feel like they're ready for it, or don't even realize what it is that they're experiencing. So I want to be able to have this platform to like normalize the idea that like, yes, we are spiritual beings, and yes, we can shift consciousness, and this is, what it looks like. Because and I think you've already kind of touched on it, it doesn't look exactly like what everyone thinks it looks like, and there is a lot of like despair that goes with completely like revamping your entire way of thinking and being. Yeah. So I wanted to know what your perspective was on like, what's the hardest part of the spiritual journey that you've been on, or what's like a misconception about it? Because there's a lot.
yeah I think the misconception that I always had, I was like, okay, I'm on a spiritual journey, right? I'm meditating, and I'm like all this stuff, and I'm researching all these ways to become enlightened, right? And so I would always have this vision of myself like being this like perfectly happy, like that was like my goal, like to be perfectly happy and like in the flow, and like socially super like, just beaming love and like radiance. Yeah. And what I wasn't ready for was the fact that I would actually have to, I think the spiritual journey, there's a quote by Carl Jung which says, a tree can only branch up to heaven to the degree that it can root into hell. So what I wasn't ready for was...
Wow. It's so true though. Oh my God. Yeah.
So little did I know that the real way to like become transparent and clear is to feel through all the things that I didn't actually want to feel, and that we're taught not to feel, and not to like all the shadows, right? So shadow work, like feeling the immense grief and suffering and sadness and fear and anger of like the wounded inner child, or like the parts of us that are just like, holy shit, this planet is so hard. Oh my God, like, and rather than trying to change those parts and make them more enlightened, just accepting them as they are, and like, and that's like the death. It's like the death of like how I think I should be, how I think I need to be, how I think I need to present myself to the world. But it's so it's continuously surrendering this like hold on like happiness, or like a certain way of being, in order to become fully real and authentic with all the most uncomfortable feelings. So
I could literally cry right now because you were just like, you're speaking my language and you're saying all the things that are in me. Absolutely. And there's also this like notion, which is just so insane to me, because it's not maintainable, but the idea of like love and light 24/7, and like just riding on this wave of like love, and just, I don't know, I think we embark on this journey thinking that maybe eventually we'll come face to face with our shadow selves, and we'll heal them and set them free, and then continue on as light beings. And the truth is that your shadow self is a part of you. Your dark, your fears, your anxieties, all of that is a part of you. So it's a matter of facing it and understanding it and healing it, yes, but also not judging it and knowing that it's always going to be within you and honoring that. You know what I mean? I'm curious to know, have you been through like your dark night of the soul? Like, have you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we go through many.
I think
like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think it's like a constant like spiraling of like death and rebirth.
Right.
So, until there like comes a time when like they become so close together that it's just like every moment is like death and rebirth.
Yes, exactly. Which can sound insane to somebody, but like I 100% know what you're saying. Yeah.
Right, because in death, it's like you're releasing the old. So it's like every exhale can be a death, and just like, and every inhale could be like a birth, because it's like being so present that it's just like continuous release and like refreshing. So I see that as like the end goal, but not the end goal. It's like a death, another level of death, and then like a rebirth into like enlightenment. Yeah. I truly believe that that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But but I think there has to be many like coming to terms with dark nights of the soul. And like you said, like it's not about pushing the dark out and like being only love and light, right, and like good vibes only, because it doesn't work that way. It's like a tree without roots. Yeah. So it's actually not fully nourished. And like you said, like there's a misconception about love and light, an idea that love and light is this thing, but love and light is not that thing. But the truth of love for me is love is all encompassing, and then light is also not separate from the darkness. Mm-hmm. Because if there was no darkness, then we wouldn't know what light is.
Know what light is, yeah.
But it's about bringing them together. So my dark night of the soul of like learning to accept the darkness and like really like go into that was, like I said, mostly in high school. I went on like, that was like my biggest dark night of the soul. I was like depressed, insecure, very anxious, lots of like negative self-talk, and that was when the biggest dark night of the soul was. And
but you conquered it and you grew through it, and it served its purpose, and that's what I would really encourage everyone to, for the misconceptions about this kind of thing, is you really do need to find a place where you embrace all of if anything, letting go, releasing attachment to things, and embracing the idea of death and rebirth, because it can be scary for someone if they are attached to what they know things to be, but you have no idea what things can be if you really just like let go and allow that that cycle to play.
I think that's what spirituality is for me. It's like a release of like attachments to like needing to be a certain way, or like external things. Mm-hmm. It's like having your place of security be in who you are within. So it's like switching the orientation from like external to like internal, right? So I think our dark night of the souls are here to trigger every part within us where we're still not like secure internally with all parts of us. So and it's especially like in high school, which is when I went through that, is when so many kids are going through that, right? It's depression, anxiety, drug addiction, whatever. Like this Palo Alto where I live is like one of the places with the most suicide for teenagers.
Wow.
So that could have easily been me had I not fully accepted the death process, right? Because we want to kill ourselves because it's so overwhelming. It's like reality. But there's a way to die without needing to physically kill yourself, right? And that's what I wish people knew. Like, you don't have to physically kill yourself. You can just let all the parts that aren't fully alive and fully authentic, you can let those parts die too, even though it seems like really hard because everyone around you is like not affirming that possibility. Like we said, it's awkward, and it's like you have to face being different than the status quo. It's freedom at the same time, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh my God, that was so powerful. I could scream. Yeah, absolutely. And it's especially what you're saying. I think that's so important about the idea of suicide. And mental health wise, I think there's a lot of beauty in knowing that you really can change things for yourself and that it is within your power. You know what I mean? I think so much of our anxiety is derived of the things that we can't control, but we wish that we could. But if we really took a step to realize the power that we do have and the control that we do have over our thoughts and our experiences and how our environment will directly mirror that, it's very empowering. So thank you for saying that. I hope that somebody who heard that can really take something from it. One thing that I'm curious to know, because I find myself kind of working on this consistently, is like, how do you balance sort of like living in this very spiritual world and operating in a normal way in the material world? Do you ever find like you have to shut it off for some times, or like, I don't know, it's a weird thing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Whew.
Yeah, same, honestly. I don't even know if I have an answer, because it's something that you kind of like consistently have to navigate.
Yeah, it's been a journey. Like, it's been a real journey, because I see what we are like as spiritual awake beings.
Yeah.
Like bridges. So we're bridges between like a spiritual dimension and like a physical dimension.
Yes.
We're bridges between like a future where everyone is like free and doesn't have to do all this like mundane, like kind of soul suppressing compromise.
Yeah. And
this world. And so there's like a constant dance and compromise.
Yeah.
That's been such a challenge to like learn how to work with.
Yeah.
So I guess how I do it is, it's just taken a lot of like rising and falling, like a lot of like reaching heights and then like crashing and just like, yeah, it's been really awkward. It's been really messy. Like I've had to, luckily, like my environment hasn't been too like oppressive. Like I've had a pretty accepting like family that I've grown up in.
That's beautiful.
And still, it's like, it's hard.
Yes.
Finally getting the hang of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think I'm privileged as well as you are to have a family that is very accepting as well. And I think that is a great advantage that I'm sad and not a lot of people have. But yeah, it's a weird thing to navigate. I love what you said about being a bridge between the spiritual and the material, or the physical. It really that's how it feels, really. And it's an interesting thing to navigate, because sometimes I do feel like when I'm in certain spaces, I have to sort of tone it down, but it is who I am authentically. And so even feeling like I need to not suppress it, but tone it down does maybe even throw me out of alignment, because it just kind of starts, I don't know. But I think that the stronger that I grow the spiritual muscle, the more confident I am in it, and the more that I stand proudly in it. And, there was a time when I think sometimes your DNA will change along with it. And so, like, for instance, now drinking doesn't really sit as well with me as it used to. And so, but I would feel very awkward, refusing a drink when I was out with my friends. And we were very used to a routine where we would all like, just like get tipsy. And the truth was that I felt that like I could have that same amount of fun in my sobriety, but I felt very pressured to, I don't know, conform to this like norm that I no longer really spiritually resonated with. And so to anybody who's battling that, I would say to really just be authentic and true to yourself, because that's where the real happiness is going to lie.
Yeah, totally. I resonate with that. I would say, yeah, it's like a dance between, because we're not here to be like, oh, I'm all like spiritual and I'm above the world, because we're all the same. We're all human. Like, there's no hierarchy. So on one level, it's like learning to be adaptable and like,
right.
Because the real meditation, the real spiritual experience is the human experience, right?
Yes.
If we just were here to like be spiritual, we wouldn't incarnate as humans.
Right.
So the real meditation is like, all right, how can you like do all the human stuff and like just be fully present and like conscious and open? Like that's the real spiritual work. And
yes,
that's embodiment of, because it's one thing to just be like, oh, I'm so spiritual, but like get away from me, like world, like you're messing up my spirituality.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and then on the other half, it's like, I think this is really important, and is, for me at least, is like learning how to use and manipulate the physical world and like figuring out what really works for me. Because like you said, like alcohol doesn't work for you anymore, like all these things. So like self-care, like figuring out like, wait, I was taught that all these things are like normal and like good to do and fun, but like suddenly I'm realizing that's not really supporting who I am.
Yeah.
So like, what do I need? It's like constant exploration of like, what do I really need in order to feel aligned all the time, and in order to function in the world from my authentic place.
Yeah.
And like really using the physical world and creating those rituals and those self-care protocols for yourself, and like, and figuring that out. It's a real journey, a like unique journey of like, because we haven't been taught like how to maintain the like multi-dimensional vessel. Like we haven't been taught what we actually need to thrive at our optimum capacity.
Right.
So like for me, it's just been like constantly discovering like, what do I need and how do I make sure I'm giving that to myself in this world, and how do I make sure I'm doing what I need to do in order to thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. And standing in that purpose. And you brought up an incredibly important point, which is, I think, as the spiritual journey becomes more and more commercial, which we can't deny that it has, I think there is like a notion of like a superiority complex that comes with people who have deemed themselves awakened and are, you know, choosing to lead the collective. And I think sometimes people can perceive that as like, well, you think that you're better than me because you like talk to God and, you know, vibrate at a different frequency. And like the truth of the matter is that no like truly awakened and spiritual being will ever find a position of superiority in themselves. I think, like you said, the whole point of this is finding unity in being human. I've never, especially during these times right now, never felt more connected to human beings around the world, of any shape, of any color. I feel, and there's such a beauty in that. I would never want to feel better or more, you know, evolved than anybody else. So yeah, right. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's truly what it is about. Like spirituality, it's about love, and it's about realizing like we're all really the same thing. Like, so yeah.
We're doing our best, basically, is what we're doing. I want to know if you have a spiritual routine that you try to commit to, that maybe if you ever are feeling off balance or out of alignment, is there something that you turn to, or a certain set of things that you do to kind of get you there? It's 444 as I asked that, by the way. Just to throw it out there.
It's a great question. I've never been the routine kind of guy.
Right.
I've always been like more like surrendered in the flow, like, because I've always felt like life is too like rigid and like
right.
The ideas of like what we should be doing. I've always been like, I've kind of been like, fuck that. Let me just feel into moment by moment like how I want to play with whatever. Yeah. So that's been my path up to now. But like now, but there are key things that more and more I'm realizing like, okay, I should really integrate that into my routine. So it's been a journey of like realizing what those things are that naturally come through. Mm-hmm. And it always starts with like listening to the body, I think, and like asking the body what it needs.
Yeah.
Because when the body's like on point, then the soul can just flow through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's say movement is essential.
Movement, yeah.
Like, and like spontaneous, intuitive movement.
Yeah.
So like dancing, or like.
You lead ecstatic dance, don't you? I think I saw that.
Yeah, I DJ ecstatic dance. I also lead like movement workshops. Yeah.
Yeah, talk about that, because I know there's a lot of it's tied to a lot of like indigenous ceremonial practices, because like I know if they were ever working on like grounding, they would do a lot of like lower hip movements, because that's where the root chakra is and it releases energy. And I mean, for me personally, I've been dancing all my life, and I'm very, very, very aware of the power that dance has. And I remember my first ecstatic dance class was like life-changing. So I think we should normalize the idea of like the expression of movement in the body and how it can tell you so much.
Yeah.
I know. So yeah, how did you find yourself in that?
I mean, I think like you said, it's like indigenous. It's like who we are. Like that's always been like our primary spiritual practice, I would say, in many
Yeah.
ways, like dancing. And it's not even like this is a spiritual thing, it's just like it's a human thing.
Right.
That's the authentic expression of how the soul expresses itself through the body, right? When it's free from like the limiting beliefs and stories and anything, when it's fully like surrendered in its expression and its joy and being moved by life, like that was always like the primary way that we connected with ourselves, with
Right.
each other, with our community, and also like with the divine and like
Yeah.
ecstasy and like, you know, like our ancestors in Africa, like they dance to like channel spirits and just like
Right.
they're like dancing and they're like healing people and like channeling like information. So this is just like the foundation of who we are as humanity. And I think a lot of the issues in our world can literally be traced to the fact that people don't dance enough and like don't dance freely enough.
Yeah.
So it's all about dancing, truly.
Just
all
dance
about
more, people. That's it. Absolutely. Thank you for that, because I think that's huge, and I think it can really connect us to ourselves. I'm also curious to know because for some reason this is such a like divisive topic in the spiritual community, but where has your experience and where do you stand with like plant medicine? Because I think a lot of people deem it to be a catalyst in their spiritual awakening, which is beautiful, and then a lot of people think, you should get there on your own in sobriety. And so I want to know where you stand with that, if you're comfortable talking about it. If not, I can just like totally
yeah, I'm comfortable for sure. It's a
Cool.
great question. It's such an important question. Like we can't, I don't think we can bypass the importance of plant medicines on the spiritual journey.
Yes.
Like I truly believe that humanity needs plant medicines in order to heal and in order to awake and access realms of the self and of consciousness that we didn't even know we had within us. That's how they served me in my journey.
Yes.
I also think they're not necessary and they're not for everyone. Most, if not, most enlightened beings in our history didn't use them. So obviously they're not necessary.
Right.
But I also think it's incorrect to say like it's not pure to use them, and it's not. So that's
It's a stigma.
totally incorrect.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said there is. It's stigmatized sometimes, and then
Yeah.
I think it's important to eradicate that. So yeah, continue.
Yeah, because we need a lot of help. We need all the help we can get right now. Like we cannot do this on our own.
Right.
You know? And just like we need water to help us, we need food to help us, we need sunlight to help us. We a lot of us need plant medicines to help us.
I can't stress it enough.
Yeah, and they just truly they are. If everything, like from a spiritual perspective, just to like kind of throw away the idea that they're not pure and they're not like a wholesome practice. Like in a spiritual perspective, if everything is divine and if everything is already in the self and everything is already inside, then those things are already inside. So there's nothing like wrong or bad or like sinful about anything.
No.
And when those things are consciously used, they can be allies and tools and open doorways and portals, but we have to walk through them ourselves without them.
Yeah.
So they show us what's possible, but we have to, which is really helpful.
Yes.
So they can open up all these things we didn't even know we had inside us, like from my experience. But then we have to realize that those things are already inside us so that we don't become dependent on them.
Mm-hmm.
And just so we can access more of our infinite, multidimensional, inherent selves and do the integration work to not rely on that in order to experience that, but still to not feel shamed or guilty for using that because they're here to help. Like nature doesn't fuck around. It's not just like, all right, here's amazing things, but you don't need them. Don't use them.
Listen, I feel word for word the exact same way, truly. I mean, they're from the earth, obviously they were gifted to us. For me, it's like, I think it is important to normalize the idea that like you don't need it, because I do think a lot of people will be dependent to an extent or think that, maybe perhaps they're not comfortable with that journey, and they maybe force themselves to because of like the notion that like you needed to feel it. And like you said, there are a ton of incredibly enlightened beings in our history that, you know, were in complete, you know, straight edge and sobriety. But I will say that if you really want to experience an ego death and if you really want to push yourself forward in that journey and you're all comfortable with it, I will say it's an incredible tool, but it's a tool. It's not a solution. You know, you can have that experience, but it's a choice, an active choice afterwards if you want to continue to step into the person and the lessons that you learned within that. You know what I mean? It's just, it shows you what the possibilities are, and it's your choice after that. So thank you for bringing up that point, because it is it's not like a band-aid, you know, you still have to do the work. There's no easy way out.
Yeah, it helps do the work because we're so inundated by so much stimuli and so many distractions, so many like deep, dense constructs in our matrix that we live in.
Yes.
Like for all these enlightened beings that were like, oh, pure path, like these, they had the privilege of like living at a time and in a situation where they were like, you know, completely not in this world. They were like dissociate from this world, and that would give them access to a lot of deeper places. But for us who are like really wounded and really inundated by so much of this nonsense in our world, then plant medicines really help to just like
it showed you. Yep.
And really I want to say that they show you what's already here. They show you what life already is, because everything is really infinite. And so it's not something dissociated from reality or from the regular life. It's just it's an access point to more potential of what's already here.
I would say it kind of just like rips the veil down, and you kind of realize, you see what was hidden the whole time, but is always there. So yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that I made it a point to ask you about it, because I think you gave a beautiful insight on it for sure. Yeah, for sure. Obviously, throughout this journey, you learned so much. Is there one specific lesson that anybody at any point of their journey, reluctant or not, that you think that they should know that you've learned? A loaded question, but
yeah, thank you for asking. Love yourself. That's just the first thing that comes to mind. It's like,
yeah, absolutely.
Really know, like we have so many ideas of like what the truth is, and all these stories in our mind based on stories we've received from our parents and our schools and society and all these stories. And there's always like this underlying thing from my experience that is like there's this like fear of being wrong, or a fear of being like not enough, or a fear of being too much. There's always like some part within us where we're like trying to be better, or trying to be worthy, or trying to like do the right thing. And so it's just, for me, like, yeah, I can't stress this enough. Like, know that you are loved. Like, know that life fucking loves and adores every last piece of you.
Yes.
And
I literally have Life Loves You, like the book right here.
That's it. Right. Yeah. So that's like the most important thing to know, because we receive all these ideas of like what life thinks about us based on wounded humans. These are wounded humans that are putting these, unconsciously projecting these stories to us. And it comes from a source of forgetting that life loves them. So life loves you, love yourself, and give yourself infinite mercy, infinite compassion, infinite forgiveness, because you deserve it. Every part of you is holy, every part of you is innocent, every part of you, life just wants you. Life is you are a gift to life. So embrace yourself as that gift, and that's really all you need, essentially, is just to love yourself. And everything you need is there, all the love.
That was so empowering. That was so beautiful. Yes, 100%. I don't even know how to follow that up, honestly. Life loves you, so you should love yourself. And very much the idea that you're never alone and you're always supported, I think is huge. I would also say, you know, your thoughts and your mind holds weight. So make sure that your inner dialogue is clean and pure, and that you're supporting yourself, and that you are your own number one fan, which falls in line with love yourself, honestly. So I'm just kind of an extension of what you said, but yeah. That's basically it.
Go through all the shadow work too, like love every part of you that doesn't feel loved. Like that's the most beautiful thing to do, is like, instead of trying to fix all those parts that forgot their love, those are actually parts that need the most love. So instead of being like, get out of my life, like you're fucking up my spiritual alignment.
Yeah, no.
Not like, oh, like treat them as children that never knew they were loved, and like embrace them in the all-encompassing love that the universe is holding everything in. Like the earth doesn't care. The earth's not like, that part of you can't stick around.
Right.
The universe isn't like, this part of you is okay. That's just our mind. Like we're created perfect and whole, and all these parts of us that make us feel like shit are the parts that forgot that they're loved. So love those parts too.
Yes. Every single layer. I always say that. The way that I stepped into my most authentic self was when I finally learned to embrace my shadow self, embrace my inner child first and foremost. I take such good care of like my 12-year-old self. Embrace like the sexual goddess that lives within me, and embracing my higher self. I think just knowing that they all serve a greater purpose. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I saw that video. That's so good.
Thanks. It's on YouTube. But otherwise, just what an incredible conversation that we just had. You are so enlightened and so well spoken, and like very gentle but powerful with what you say. So just thank you for stepping in your purpose. Is there any last words that you want to leave anybody with, or?
Yeah, I want to say that there's like, there's no such thing, or like, it's not about being enlightened, right? Just for people who still have that idea of like, there's somewhere that I need to get in order to fix who I am, in order to fix my problems, like we said in the beginning, and like you shared beautifully, like embrace all of you, like who you are in your essence. Like this is what all the masters said, like we already are all the enlightened in our core. Like we're already all God, if you want to put it that way. We're already all perfect and whole and awake and in love and blissful and happy. But those don't come from trying to be something, because in that very like attempt to try to be something, you're denying a part of yourself and causing more like separation or disconnection from who you really are.
Yeah.
So I would say, just embrace all of you again, like not stopping to stress the self-love.
Yeah.
Who you are authentically, that's more than enough. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, you're already that. You're already there, and you're off the hook. You don't need to try to be anything. Or, like we're all here together, just life expressing itself perfectly from a deeper wisdom than your mind could ever like try to control.
Yeah.
So trust in that deeper wisdom, and and as we go into this like new life, everything reorganizing after Corona and all that stuff, find solace and find home and find peace and security inside yourself, because you're not going to find it outside.
No, yeah.
This is the time to start doing that work.
Yes, if you haven't already, Jesus Christ, please do the inner work and find that stillness, and like you said, that home within you, because you'll carry that peace wherever you go. Absolutely. And I think, not to carry on, but like so much of our suffering is prolonged because I think we base our happiness and our peace on things that are conditional and things that are attainable, whether that's a career or a relationship, or whether that is the idea of enlightenment, or the idea of like when I reach, and the issue and the point is that you're already there. Like you said, you're off the hook, and that's such a weight off your shoulders to know that you are already exactly where you're meant to be. You're as evolved as you're meant to be, and and there's something so beautiful about that, isn't it? Like
and I want to stress how important it is that we cultivate that, because like this is where we're creating a new world from. Like we're creating a world not from like this energy of like trying to get somewhere or like fix anything, because that's still, we then don't have access to our full selves if we're still like projecting that like we're doing it from anxiety or from like fixing. But if we're doing it from this like, all right, I'm off the hook, like I'm perfect, I'm whole, I'm a gift, then we embody this new way of already enoughness, which nature is already inherently in, right? Nature has no idea of like wrong, right, not enough, too much. It's like all just is. So when we just like let ourselves off the hook and continue to unpackage like all the layers of humanity's shit that we take on,
yeah,
we show up in the world embodying a new way of being and infusing everything we create from this new permission to just already celebrate, already dance. Like we don't have to become good enough to dance. Like as long as there's music, the body's down to dance.
Yeah.
But like, so yeah, just coming from that inner dance to the world and like bringing that now rather than waiting to get there someday.
Yes. Yes. So beautifully worded. Do you like do a lot of speaking, or are you just eloquent by nature? Because I'm like, you're wording these so well.
I do a lot of writing.
Do a lot of writing, yeah.
And I speak too. I guide people. Like I do like sessions, and
right.
You know, I've given talks and workshops and stuff.
Yeah. So wait, so plug yourself then. How can people find you? Because I think people want to find you after this.
Cool. So Adionai, Adionai, on my website is adionai.com, or on Facebook. My Instagram is Source Scribe. So, and my YouTube also, Adionai. So, yeah, thank you so much.
No, thank you. And thank you for, above all else, like answering the call to pursue your purpose. Because I think there's a certain glow that a person has when they're in their mission and when they're doing what they're meant to be doing. And I can very much say that you really are. So thank you for that, because you give others permission to do the same. And thank you for just even wanting to have this conversation with me. And I'm so excited to see where your journey takes you. I'm so excited that I even like have you in my life now, because I'm like latching on forever now. And I hope that anybody who is watching this, I mean, if you're part of the collective, then you're part of the shift. Like no one's getting left behind at this point. It's a new dimension we're walking in. So please make sure that you are preparing.
Buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up. We're in a crazy season, I'll say, astrologically even. So just make sure that you're doing the inner work and that you're committing to yourselves and
take care of yourself. Yeah, we need you healthy and driving.
Oh my God, we need you more than any time we've ever needed anyone. So yeah, perfect. Thank you for
But yeah, thank you so much. Seriously.